Hello, world. This is Kimberly and Connor Tracy over here at Big Red SEO.
Hey, guys.
So, little tidbit. Today we're talking about working with a spouse. So, we get asked pretty often.
You're going to have to do something.
Huge in my face.
Yeah.
We get asked pretty often how, as spouses, we work together and how we've been able to work together for so long, right? And
But before we go any further with that, we need to test audio. So, I had to reformat my computer and I had to reset up OBS.
He's like throwing my law of order way out.
Got it. Yeah, is audio working there? Is it in sync?
Yes.
You say yes, but did you check?
It's like a 5-second delay.
It's a 5-second delay, but is it a 5-second delay between your talking and you hearing?
My mind is about to go poof. It's working. Volume's there. If you can hear us, put a Y for yes that you can hear us. Say hello. Tell us where you're from. Okay, so
it's our anniversary.
Technology is done. It's so funny. I gotta like lower this or something. It's funny that we picked this subject, right? For working with a spouse, and we have technology go wonky, and then we're like, oh yeah, we've got it. Like everything's cool, and then everything goes weird. I can't do this.
Okay, well the mic is here. So what would you like to do?
Okay, can we just go like that? Is that cool?
Yeah, we can do that. No problem.
It's like in my face.
Well, here, look, we'll do like we normally do. Sorry, guys. Audio
you
problems.
guys are getting like a live behind the scenes.
This is in all shapes and forms. This is what it's like working with your spouse.
They're probably like, no way. They're smiling and laughing instead of throwing things. I don't know. So anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. It is our 8th anniversary. I did not know this until last night. So true confession, when it comes to these kinds of things, I just don't remember. I kind of blame. It's not really good to blame, but when we got married, we got a marriage license. The guy on the yacht had it on one date. The state had it on another date. Our invites had it on another date. The good news is all of our friends and family that were invited on the boat showed on the correct date.
On the right date, yes. Yep.
And then whenever I filled out the paperwork, I put the wrong date. So like from the point, I love you and I love rolling this ride with you, but like for me, dates are kind of like, and then so last night at like 10,
about 10 p.m. Yeah.
By the way, tomorrow's our anniversary, and I was like,
did you want to do anything?
I'm like, is it? Like, what's today's date, right?
Yeah.
But then in addition to it, he was like, do you want to do anything? And like, we're still deep in project work. We got an hour and a half left of work, and I'm like right now is not the good time to
You
ask
heard
me.
that correct. It was 10 p.m. and Kim said we still had an hour left of work.
Hour and a half. Like, yeah, we were launching a really cool website, which we're super passionate about.
Yep.
Awesome people getting ready to live their dream and retire from one and start a legacy in another, which is always fun and cool. But I am very thankful that I am married to a spouse that doesn't get feelings hurt. And or you have like those people that are like, if they forget your birthday, they unfriend you on Facebook. Luckily, you're not one of those, because if you were, that would be awkward. However, confession, before knowing the date and not even realizing it, Connor had technology things, and Mama, me, decided I wanted a Mac computer. So just to write, I already have an awesome laptop computer, but like he comes around the corner and I was like, I found something I want to get. And I was like, it feels really good. And he's like, great, what? And I was like, well, this might change our marriage a little bit.
Drastically.
Because we're a PC house, right? Like we're Android,
Droids.
and he has Google and whatever, and I just felt like my fingers glissed across the thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And the intention for me buying it really truly was, I have the intention of writing a book, possibly multiple books. We've been talking about it for years, and it's time to step in and actually do it. And I didn't want to use my same computer that I use for all the different projects, right? So we just dived right in. So back to the theme of working with your spouse, this is kind of all the things and all the layers, right, of working with your spouse. And kind of, I forgot the anniversary, y'all. But I wouldn't forget a project deadline or how to get paid.
Right.
Or how to keep you in your tasks.
Right. But
So,
I mean, on
sometimes
that,
dinner.
so like I said, we have some audio stuff. I've done some testing. I'm hoping that everything is working the way it should. But I have to reconfigure the entire streaming system and the entire streaming software, which means none of my fancy little
If you
like
are
us on
watching,
Facebook or
throw
Twitter.
us a like yo or hello or you don't even have to say anything. Just put an emoticon in.
Yeah.
Because I see people watching, but I'm not sure who it is, and I'm hoping you guys can hear. I could hear when I'm plugged in, so it's working.
Yeah,
for me.
the whole neighborhood can hear Kim when she's plugged in.
You know.
But yeah.
You know.
So anyway, had to go down, went down to the store, needed to get a new hard drive because I was running out of space. They decided instead of cloning it, they would just format the entire thing, which wasn't really on my list of stuff.
It's
that
kind of
was
an interesting
allowed.
engagement. We'll have that as a separate
We will.
it's like a separate video about
But
customer
yes,
service.
while all that was going on and I'm dealing with the tech and I'm getting frustrated with that, Kim decides to walk up behind me and say, "I've found something." I'm like, "Great. Can't wait to hear about this."
You were actually pretty excited until you heard what it was.
Yeah, the sales rep at the place was just cracking up the whole time.
Yeah, so because she gets the full dynamic of husband and wife, and then spouses, and then boss and
then employee,
and there's multiple different layers.
Needless to say, Kim now has a new computer. And hey, Kim, out of curiosity, how's that computer going for you?
Well, I have not opened it yet because we are. Stop! Again, guys, this is the norm, right? He's like, you bought this cool thing, and you
when
haven't
did you get
opened
it?
it. I think it was Saturday.
And what day is it today?
Tuesday, because she told me.
And you have done what with it?
It's on the dining room. I have created intentions. I know what I want. I need space.
It is still in the bag from the store.
I do things on my own time, y'all. Like that's pretty much what it is. And we have multiple different, like, I think for the past 4 work days, we've launched a website every single night.
Yep.
So it's like one of those things that I know it's there. I know I will be using it. It will get there. This is how we do things differently, which rolls us right in, right? A lot of people ask us, how do we work together? And we have 2 different personalities, like 2 different ways of doing things. And in some areas, we actually come together and we do things similar or alike. So it's like an added benefit, right? Especially in business when it comes to strategy and marketing and web design and coding and kind of problem solving or just breaking things down and troubleshooting. Like we are on the same page. When it comes down to tracking time and softwares and who takes notes versus who doesn't take notes and different stuff like that, we are completely
Actually, there's my
different.
notepad over there. You want to hand me that
That
notepad?
is my notepad. That is my notepad.
It's a sticky note, not that big. Honestly, I go into an hour meeting, I come out with 1 sticky note. Kim's got a novel of 5 pages.
Yeah.
But,
and I think so here's the deal and here's the confession, guys. We let each other be who we are. It's not to say some days we don't get on each other's nerves a little bit or kind of rail things up a little bit, but in most cases, if it gets to that level, we're trying to control something that's not meant for us to control, if that makes sense. So we'll be working on a project and maybe communication's just not there. I feel like we experienced that last night when he was trying to troubleshoot something in a website.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, I've just learned over time, communicate with Conor the way he prefers to be communicated with, not necessarily the way I would communicate, because I'm very direct, let's get to the point, let's get it done, chop chop, we gotta go. Versus Conor, he likes to talk things out and talk things through, and it actually helps him. So before we started this video, it was the microphone situation, he couldn't get it to work. And I asked a question.
The 20 minutes before we went live, the audio was not working. Everything else was fine.
Yeah.
All the other stuff was in there and it was okay, but the audio was not working.
So instead of me nagging him of, hey, what can you do? Hey, do you try this? Hey, da-da-da-da-da. I kind of gave him a space and then I came back in a couple times. And then whenever I offered a solution, he just wasn't open to the solution. So I had to walk away, and that leads me into when we started working together, I bought a book. It was called The 4 Agreements, and that book sat on my nightstand for probably, I think 3 years, right? So I was avoiding the whole solution. And then finally I cracked it open, and it actually helped me be a better spouse and a better business partner and a better project manager and a better overall just everything that I am, right?
What was the name of that?
So it's called the 4 Agreements. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it or not, but I wrote down the things. So number 1 is be impeccable with your word. Right? So, like, that's pretty important. Like, if we say we're going to do something and we don't follow through and do it, the people that are involved are going to all of a sudden not feel like they're important or not feel like a priority. So if I tell Conor that I'm going to do A, B, and C, you bet your damn ass I better do it. And if I don't, I'm going to have consequences.
You know, it reminds me of a Facebook meme that says, if I tell you I'm going to fix the dishwasher, I'll do it. I don't need to be reminded every 6 months.
He loves that one. You share that every time it comes around.
Every time I see that, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be reminded.
Well, and in spouse world, like, we know, like, we've been dating a little over 10 years, right? Like, so, well, married 8, together 10-ish, whatever. I kind of get lost again in the dates. But the thought process is you always were very open in the fact of you're not really a house cleaner type of straightener upper, but he's willing to hire the help, right? And he's willing to help whenever I ask for it, which me asking for help is kind of new, right? Because I'm like, oh, I've got it. I can do all of the things. I can do all the things in all the ways.
My definition of cleaning the house is walking around with a trash can, throw everything out.
He does that. He does that. But, like,
it was cheaper for me to buy new socks than it was to go through the hassle of finding the crap you need to wash in a washer
unless
and then fold them and do all that crap.
They're Sock Joy socks.
Foot Joy,
which he is all about.
I'm all about it right now. They're great socks. I'm using them for golf. And they've got extra
He's
padding,
all about it, and all of his buddies are all about it. It is crazy.
Yeah.
So the first one is be impeccable with your word.
Thank you, FootJoy.
I know, right? No sponsorship here. But be impeccable with your word, right? So if you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you can't, like, that's the other thing. We're very open with each other on, can we do this? Can we not do this? At what area do we need to adjust and not adjust, if that makes sense?
Yep.
What do you keep looking at me for?
So, I for some reason, my battery is...
It's cool. We'll roll. We'll keep on going.
Out.
Keep on and going, right?
Hey, you got 8 minutes. Go for it.
I know. So number 2 was don't take anything personal. Yeah. So sometimes working together as a spouse, like, it can be, like, for me, it's tone. So, like, I'm very sensitive to tone. And if he says something in a different tone, then all of a sudden, if I'm not clean and clear and grounded, I'm like, oh, and I'll start cracking my neck. And I'm like, oh, gosh, my power is diluting really, really quickly, really fast. However, when I come back around and I realize, hey, at the end of the day, it's you and it's your gig and you're feeling frustrated, it doesn't mean I have to feel frustrated. All of a sudden, the edge goes off. And the same thing for you, too.
And we've worked in different situations. We've worked in a large office shared together.
Yeah.
We've worked in separate offices. We work at home. Kim has her office here, which is upstairs. My office is downstairs. Sometimes we work really well sitting side by side. Other times we need space.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I want to slam the door and scream my head off, and other times I just grab a cigar and go outside.
Yeah.
Or you go for a run.
Well,
or
and
whatever
it kind of
is.
depends on, in typical cases, and I'm going to just speak for the both of us, in typical cases, it's not the other person that's the issue. It's the whatever that's trying to be worked on and the frustration. So I think if you're working with your spouse, it's important to realize that. It's not Conor that's necessarily an issue. I mean, sometimes if
not
you're...
my problem.
I mean, sometimes if you're hungry, you're a little bit more grouchy or a little shorter fuse than normal, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's usually something in the project that's not going the desired way that we wish that it would, and then that's kind of what gets it. So I think just keeping that objectivity and neutrality helps everything kind of go the same. And I think any husband and wife can do that too, right? The third thing is don't make assumptions, right? So I don't know what goes on in this guy's brain all the time. I mean, sometimes I try to assume, and it normally doesn't end very well. Like, just letting you all know. Confession for a different video, right? But at the end of the day, when we were first together, it was always, I would assume that you were hungry or assume that you're grouchy or assume that you were mad, and I was creating these little drama things.
It is safe to assume that I'm hungry.
You're
At all
so funny.
times.
You're so funny. Like, you're not always hungry. Like, when we travel, you're not as hungry. You're moving. You're doing things.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he is hungry all the time. Don't make assumptions. So there, I just got caught in my own assumption. But the other thing, too, is, like, don't necessarily think that one spouse is super stressed out versus another spouse is not stressed out, right? Like, I think overall what was really important for me and what keeps me clean and clear and appreciate you and all that you do, like, you guys are going to see him blush, is, one, respecting him as a business associate partner. I mean, we're both owners. It's just on the paper. I'm the owner, right? Yeah. And he knows that, like, he knows that he doesn't want a lot of, like, the responsibility when shit goes wrong. So that's where the ownership comes on me as well. And we know that. So we know our roles, right? We know the different areas. And you actually prefer to be told what to do on projects versus having to think about all the things in the projects.
Yeah. There's certainly some aspects of things that, you know, I'll do on my own, or I'll document out the way I need it to be done. And then there's other parts where, you know, I'm not doing it. Just tell me what it is you want and I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you need...
Which is kind of interesting for me because I have to put different hats on, right? So I have to put a designer hat on, marketing, a sales, business owner, project manager, wife. Like, you have different roles too, but it's kind of fascinating flipping and switching. So it's like he's really good at strategy. So I always try to be like 4 steps ahead and then auto calculate where it's going to go. And on good days, it is awesome. On character building days, it goes wonky quick and fast.
Yeah, Kim calls them character building days. That's nice. Go ahead, go to the next one.
That was like when we first started. I believe there was multiple times where I fired him in the afternoon, and then I told him he had to be back in the morning. He would be rehired.
And, you know, and even with that, there are days when we have to be separate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
There are days, and you know, it's great the way our business is set up, in that when there are those stressful times, if you decide you need to go to yoga, or you need to go get your nails done, or I decide I need to go golf for 3 hours, I'm just going to go to the driving range, or I'm going to go play 9 holes. We need a break from each other. We need a break from work. Come back and then re-strategize and go forward.
Right.
So. Yeah.
And it's usually like, that's one of the areas on here that I wrote down is, you know, whenever it comes down to if somebody does need a break, spouse or no spouse, but spouse specifically, I think it's really important to give them their space, right? I think it's important to, because if you don't, there's the fight and flight and then all that other shenanigans. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, this is the part where you don't take it personal. If he needs space and he comes to me and says, "Hey, I need to go golf for 6 hours." I think at one point you did 18 holes and then 9 holes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, cool. Is all your project work covered? Yeah, I've got da-da-da-da-da. Awesome. We'll see you later, right? It's one of those things, like, I think it's easy in spouse to be like, we're in this together, and I get that, but I think at some point somebody's going to break and somebody's going to fracture, and it's better to give space. And here's the deal, guys. If you're building a business, whether you're spouse or not spouse, you have to ensure that you're having fun with it and that you're actually enjoying what you're building. And if you keep driving and keep forcing and sheer will and go, and it's conflict and it's arguing and fighting or whatever the situation is, not honoring the space, it's not going to be good and it's not going to be fun, right? No. So we know some people that work together that are married, and it's kind of fascinating being on the outside looking in and being like, gosh, like if they would just pivot and shift a little bit, and that's us dipping a little bit into judgment, right? Sure. But if they would just pivot and shift a little bit. So when they come to us and they ask, and then they'll apply something and be like, man, that really worked. We're like, yes, you got it, right? Now keep going. And then usually there's a dip or a wonky, because for me, I always wanted to control, right? So like that was my thing. If I can control things and control you and control scenarios and control projects, everything's fine, until all of a sudden the control no longer worked. Right. Right? And that's the thing, is I can control me, and yes, I can control projects and clients and the roles and the things I have. I can't control him, right? But I can motivate and inspire you to be able to do A, B, and C, right? So yeah, I think space is really, really important.
It is.
And then the fourth one is always do your best, right? So like at the end of the day, like we have always had the agreement that if it has to come between the relationship and the business, we would actually shut down the business, or we would figure out whatever the next step is for the business, right? For us, the relationship is first. And I think knowing that standard and that foundation helps. So like if I need some time away from the business, he honors that and he steps in. If he needs time away from the business, I I honor that, I step in, and then we come in and we step in together, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's really important to have that intention of the relationship for us is first. And granted, we both could rock. I mean, he rocked his own business for a while. I have my own coaching, mentoring. We could do things separate and be successful. We choose to come together and be successful together. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything you want to add on that?
Nope.
No. Let's see what else. I think it's important to make sure you communicate crystal clear, right? Like, I think sometimes people can say one thing, but they actually mean something else. And every once in a while, we'll get that. We'll get into frustration, and we're trying to communicate something, and it's just not coming out correctly. Luckily for the two of us, we know what questions to ask, and we've been around each other enough to realize, hey, go. He'll tell me, he'll be like, go take a walk, right? And usually by the time I get done with the walk, I come back and I articulate it a little bit clearer.
Yeah, and I think the other thing on there is that not everything has to be read into. You know, if somebody says they don't want to do something or whatever it is, it's not, let me discuss my feelings to them.
You don't want to ask Conor to discuss his feelings.
No. I mean, if I say that I don't want to do something and I have my reasons why I don't want to do whatever
that would be an interesting
is,
podcast. How does Conor feel?
Yeah.
It would either be a really big hit or it would be the shortest podcast ever.
But
I think it would be somewhere in between.
But at the end of the day, you don't have to read into everything that is being said or everything that is being done.
Yeah.
And I at various times we kind of forget that part, but then come back to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, it depends on where you're at in the thick of everything, right? So, like, we're handling ourselves, and then we're handling all the other things, and then you got another person right in your space or on your project together. We work side by side on a lot of projects. So it's interesting if anybody ever spied on our chat window, they would probably be like, oh, that's kind of interesting how they said that and got away with it. And it's kind of like water down a back or duck's back or whatever.
Yep.
But there's certain situations where like things get pretty intense, and then you just find a way to kind of like neutralize it. And it doesn't happen as much as it did when we very first started. When we very first started, I came from corporate America. Conor was a straight entrepreneur since he could put pants on. It was very fascinating, two different personalities coming in and coming together.
Right.
But then, like, to follow up, I think it's really, really important to determine what roles each person's going to have in the business, whether it's a business owner or what are your tech things that you do, what are the things that you do every day. And then, in addition to that, I think it's really, really, really important to ensure you find ways to have fun. Right? So if you're not having fun, what is the entire purpose of it all? And so for us, we have fun by doing these cheeky little things. Like we'll say something and then it becomes the joke of the day. Or, oh no, is one of them. Yep. There's different things that we do, right? That kind of like create a little bit of humor back and forth. And then laughing about like when shit kind of goes wonky, like you kind of just laugh it out and be like, oh, that was really funny.
And it will. I mean, everything does go sideways at some point in time. It's just inevitable. But being able to get past that or laugh about that, I mean, that's paramount.
So 8 years, guys, 8 years working side by side, a little over 8 years technically because we started the business a little bit before then. But it's been a fun ride and I wouldn't change it for the world. And hopefully you got some tidbits today. If you did, feel free to leave a comment, like our post, share. Happy anniversary,
Happy anniversary.
Cheeks. Yeah, we might go to dinner. He might get 1 square of the day, maybe 2. I don't know.
I didn't have breakfast.
You didn't have breakfast. Shh, we gotta go.
I gotta get food.
All right, guys, have a great week. We'll chat with you next week.
All right, guys, have a good day now. You gotta find the button. It's all different.
It's here.
It's
right
not.
there.
It's this one here.
See, like guys, we're helping each other. Oh, we're transitioned.
Mic off. Here we go. See ya.
Bye.